All right, so you're back. This is kind of part 2 of last week's video where I talk about my ER trip, my ovarian burst, my ruptured ovarian cyst, and then the next day I went to see my primary care doctor who diagnosed me with something new. So this video is going to be about that. The new diagnosis is Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Some people call it Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. As far as my research has gone, that's more like UK and Australia that calls it Ehlers, but there's different ways you can pronounce it. Both are correct. So, which is just crazy because I have looked into that before, and I don't have, in my mind, I've never seemed super flexible. So like the hyper mobility is the main symptom of it, which is like your joints pop out of place a lot. Your joints just aren't strong. However, I have like every other symptom and I've been having a lot of joint issues. I've just never had anything that's popped out of joint yet. And I've had joint issues since I was a kid. So I've had joint pain. I had joint pain growing up that doctors continuously said, oh, that's growing pains. And I still have them and I'm 25. So that's a lie, but that's just what they blame them on. And so growing up, I'd have these terrible pains in the middle of the night where I would just be crying and crying and crying, and like nothing would help it. And I still have them to this day. But in the last couple of months, I have had worse and worse joint issues to the point where my joint pain is worse, but also I feel like my joints are super weak. Even holding my phone, like this is painful. And it's not like I've not been working out and it's causing it. Like something is seriously wrong with my joint. So this is what I was telling my primary care doctor about, you know, the joint issues. I feel like I have, like, I was holding a spoon at one point and I twitched and like everything fell off the spoon, and like unscrewing my water bottle, that is really painful and uncomfortable. So I like won't fill up my water bottle sometimes during the day because it is so uncomfortable and so painful. So I've been having like so many joint issues, honestly. And then the second thing I talked to my doctor about, which she connected to Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, is I've been having these weird skin things, which I've talked about in the vlog before, where I'll be like sitting in the sun and my skin that is directly in the sun doesn't react, but the skin on my thighs that is under clothing feels like it's burning. I'll take off my pants and look at them and it's just blotchy, and then in about 20 minutes if I come out of the sun, it'll just immediately go away. And it's like, it's so weird. And I've been having all these other, like my skin itchiness has gotten worse. I've had skin itchiness for years now. I've seen an allergist, I've seen a dermatologist, no one knows what it is, but like Benadryl would help. So for 2 or 3 years I was on 2 Benadryl a day. So I was like, I don't know if you heard that, but that was a hummingbird. I was just like super drugged all the time and felt drugged because I was on these Benadryl. And yeah, I just have really, really bad skin itchiness. I've since gone on some like meds for it that help, but it's been getting worse in the last couple of months. Like my trunk, so like my stomach, my abdominal area gets super itchy. It used to just be like my scalp was really bad, and then anywhere that brushed against anything would get super itchy. Now it's like really bad in the trunk of my body. So in saying both of those things, my primary care doctor was like, okay, don't freak out, but I'm pretty sure you have this new thing, and go do your research on it, but I'm pretty sure you have this new thing. And so she was like, you know, Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And I was, it's hilarious because she didn't say anything else. She just said that. And both my parents were like, I have no idea what that is. And I was like, you know, I don't think that I'm hypermobile, because I've heard of this before. I have friends who have it. You know, I've researched it before. I was so proud of myself. Like, all these years of like researching have led to this moment where she mentioned just the name of the diagnosis, and I knew all the symptoms enough to be like, I don't have the main one. So anyway, just a little moment for me. You take them where you can get them because they're so few. Anyway, she was like, yeah, but you're a freak, you know, like your body is so weird. Sorry, there was a petal in my food, had to get that out. Your body is so weird that like you have all of the other symptoms of it. So like, I'm pretty sure you have this thing. And I was like, okay. And I've been looking up all of the symptoms of it that I've never really dove fully into before because I didn't have that main one I felt. And the other symptoms are blowing my mind. So like GI symptoms are a huge part of it that I had no idea. And I've had terrible GI symptoms that have just been getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And those are very much connected to Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So that's like a really, really big one. Skin issues, like I said, were huge. I'm gonna start looking up the list of things because I'm gonna forget if I don't have it up here. All right, let's see, what else? I also have pelvic floor muscle pain, and that's connected. So also dysautonomia. So your autonomic nervous system regulates everything that's like automatic, right? So your breathing, your heart rate, your sweating, all of that. And since I got a quarter dose of the vaccine for COVID, I have had dysautonomia. I've had dysregulation of my autonomic nervous system. I've had sweating, I've had chest pain, I've had labored breathing, I've had extreme fatigue, and dysautonomia and like temperature regulation and sweating dysfunction are also from Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So that's super interesting. The vaccine symptoms came on like that all in one day, 4 days after I got the vaccine. So my thought is, yes, the vaccine might have triggered it, but because I'm still having the symptoms, maybe the Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome just kept it on. So that's possible. Also, a lot of EDS is what Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is for short. A lot of them have like weird bleeding between periods, and I've never had this issue before until this burst ovarian cyst. It could have just been the burst ovarian cyst, but this could be like a new paradigm where my EDS symptoms are getting worse and I'm gonna start having more, you know, gyno problems. I really hope not. That would suck. But yes, a lot of EDS patients also have like IBS, and I do have IBS. Another really interesting thing was mast cell activation syndrome, which my functional medicine doctor has mentioned mast cells, and that mine are just like freaked out right now, but that is also what leads to the skin issues. So that was really interesting. Chronic bloating is a part of it, nausea, food intolerances. I have all of that. Acid reflux, I have that too. Diarrhea, constipation, I have that as well. So many things. So many things. This was really, really interesting. So for people with EDS, like not being prepared for the task at hand can create a chronic pain flare. So this is what they say. Whether it's a much longer walk than your usual, standing or sitting for many hours without movement breaks. I hate standing. I don't know what it is, but I hate standing. It messes up my body. Or exercise that exceeds your current capacity. All of these can contribute to a flare. So interesting. This doesn't mean you shouldn't try to increase your capacity, but doing so in a stepwise, progressive manner will lead to success versus jumping into the deep end of a huge increase in output. So I like can never do anything spontaneous. I have to save, sorry, the lighting's like so weird. I have to save my energy for the tasks that I need to do. That's always just been like a chronic fatigue thing, but it is super interesting that EDS is similar, especially with like pushing your body too far with different activities. So that was super, super interesting. That is from movewelldaily.com. And so yeah, those were like the big ones, but like fatigue is a huge symptom. It's really like almost every single symptom I have. Headaches is a huge symptom. It's like almost every single symptom I have could be from EDS. So that was mind-blowing to me, and I am continuing to do so much research with that. My doctor also wants me to go see someone else locally who does kind of more holistic medicine type stuff to see if he could help with any of my symptoms, because I just have just terrible symptoms, and I'm really like that. I mean, that affects my mental health, right? Because my doctor was like, you feel like crap all the time, of course it's gonna affect your mental health. So yeah, that was just honestly incredibly validating to me, because I've known that something is really, really wrong and my body is just fighting as hard as it could, but something is still wrong, and you know, nothing's really been helping. And unfortunately, there's no like cure for EDS, so it is just like another management diagnosis, which does suck. And she said like she wasn't aware of anything that like really worked, you know, like everyone's always like, oh, try this diet or try these supplements or try this or that. But she was like, you know, some stuff might work for some people, but like there's nothing that, you know, universally works for everyone. And I've tried so many things, but it gives me, you know, kind of a new area to try. I've heard that like the low histamine diet can be really helpful, especially with the mast cell activation syndrome with the, you know, skin stuff. So that's really interesting. So yeah, I've just been doing a ton of research on that, and there's so many health things coming up. I mean, I'm seeing a hematologist in a couple of weeks, actually the end of this week, I think, because of my weird like iron deficiency, my low ferritin levels, all of that. So there's just a lot like moving forward, and that feels good that we have like a plan. I'm trying a new medication for my vaccine symptoms as well. I tried a new one a couple weeks ago and I had immediate heat intolerance that just triggered my mental health as well, because like the only really, you know, independence I have is like sitting outside, like doing work outside, going for a walk. I can only see my dad outside, you know, like all of that, like seeing friends outside. So that is really important for me to still be able to be outside and not feel heat intolerance, which is just overwhelming sickness feeling, and you just have to go inside. It's just terrible. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit more positive with my health journey going forward and excited to move forward with new possible treatments, seeing new doctors, all of that. But it's still a lot. It's still overwhelming. It's still exhausting. It's still frustrating. I'm still really, really tired. So yeah, but I'm hanging in there, and that is the important part. And I'm really grateful for this new diagnosis, and yeah, we'll just keep plugging along. So this kind of wraps up the emergency room burst ovarian cyst EDS journey. It has been a crazy week. So yeah, that is kind of like the recap of all of it. And going forward, hopefully we'll get back to regularly scheduled programming with some health updates sprinkled in there as I continue on this journey. So yeah, I hope some of this was at least helpful to someone, or raising awareness about the people who do go through this. If anyone has any of these things and wants to offer like advice or thoughts or whatever, like please comment them down below or message me on Instagram. All that is down below, because it's, you know, it's a new journey and we are going through it the best we can, but I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional at any of this, so any feedback or advice is greatly appreciated. I know everyone's journey is different, and so something that worked for someone else may not work for me, but it's you know, worth it to look into it, especially if a lot of people have had that experience. So I'm feeling slightly optimistic for what is to come. So very grateful to have you on this journey. Thank you for checking in. And for everyone who's been so patient as I've been trying to navigate this, especially over the last like 9 months, with my health being really the last year and a half. My health has just taken a dump. It's gone downhill real fast. But anyway, all right. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And talk soon. Bye!